over the weekend I was playing Bastion, which is the new, I guess sort of new. It was one of the Summer of Arcade games that came out.
It's only like 10 days old. I think it constitutes new still.
Newish. Well, another Summer of Arcade game has come out since then, so that's why I was thinking it's probably...
From Dust, I'm also interested in that too, but I want to hear about Bastion, because I want
Bastion
this game.
Is action RPG. That's sort of what it says on the little bubble that pops up. Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful hand-painted world, sort of three-quarter isometric view. You start the game as the kid is what you're referred to. Wake up in your bed and step out of bed and start walking sort of through the remains of your house. And as you walk, like, blocks and walls and buildings and stuff like that sort of assemble around you. So the world is sort of being built as you walk through it. And there's a narrator sort of telling the story of what you do post-apocalypse. There is this event that happened in the game that is alluded to in the beginning, and I'm sure pieces of it will unfold as you play through. And it sort of wiped out everybody you know. In fact, as you sort of go through the environments, you find sort of little pillars of ash shaped like people. And the narrator says this was Steve. He was your tutor. You remember him as being a nice guy and stuff like that. So
not Steve again.
Yeah, Steve again. I'm sure his name wasn't Steve in the game, but it's just the first name that popped into my head. But yeah, and you ultimately you get weapons and you learn some little power moves and pick them up, and you go to a place in the story of the game, everybody who survived this event agreed that they would meet at a place called the Bastion. And you get there, and there's nobody else there. So it's your job to sort of rebuild the Bastion, bring in elements from the worlds around you that are still remaining to build, like a forge and an armory and things like that, and to try to sort of rebuild civilization. And you find survivors and stuff like that. And it's cool. It's really, really surprisingly like emotional. I don't know that I was necessarily sold on it at first. I played through a couple of little levels, and it felt like walk into a room, door seals behind you, kill a bunch of monsters, pick up what they leave behind, and use that to buy upgrades. And it felt very sort of pat and grindy in that way, and I wasn't really sure what the big deal was about until I got to one of the levels where it really started giving up pieces of this backstory about the event that happened and why the sort of the world has moved on, and who your character is and who the narrator is and things like that. And like the emotion.
But before you give away the entire game, Jesus,
I don't want to blow it.
How is the gameplay?
It's really, really well done. It's very polished. It's the weapons are great. There's a lot of variety between them. You'll find a gun and it has unlimited ammo, but you can't walk when you're using it. And you'll find a bow and arrow, and it has limited arrow, and you kind of have to pull the bow back and charge it up, but you can move while you're charging. So there's like pros and cons to all these weapons, and everything can be upgraded and be made better by little elements you find throughout the environments and stuff like that as you're sort of foraging through the world. Yeah, I like it. I really like it a lot, actually. I played it to the wee small hours of Saturday and Sunday, and I'm still going. There's a lot to do in the game. It was $15. And like I said, I wasn't sold at first, but it sort of grew on me, and now I find myself somewhat obsessed with it.
I want that game.
It's good. I think, I believe what sort of the three of us share in tastes in terms of like sort of indie flavor and passion behind games, and just people working hard to put out cool games that kind of break the mold, who do things that you're familiar with but sort of expand and have heart and have depth, like Bastion sort of does all of those things. I really think it would definitely sort of resonate with the two of you from a creativity standpoint, from a just sort of a spirit of gameplay standpoint. It's pretty fantastic.
I have no doubt that I would enjoy that game. I wanted it on day one, but some stuff happened that prevented me from getting it. But I think I might end up picking it up at the end of this week for sure.
Xbox red ringed.
This is the first time I've turned on my Xbox since, and I checked, since February. There hadn't been anything since February that I was dying to do with my Xbox until I started reading reviews for Bastion, and people compared it to like a lot of Zelda comparisons, and I could sort of see some of that. There's way more to it than any Zelda game that I've ever played, though. Yeah, it's I think if you need that as a point of entry, it's kind of Zelda-y, but what it does, I think, is fairly unique, at least in my experience, anyway. So I don't know if there's other games out there like it, but I kind of love it.
Sounds very cool. I knew very little about it other than that there's a pervasive narrator, the whole thing, and I've heard it's sort of Zelda-like, but the whole thing with the different weapons sounds very cool. Sort of the rebuilding element.
The narrator, I wasn't sure what to expect because that's sort of, I think, kind of the selling point of the game. Like on the screen, it says that sort of reimagines and breaks new ground for storytelling in games, and I'm like, come on, really? And it kind of does. I think the writing is really, really good, and I think that helps, obviously. There is sort of a poetry and a lyricism to the narration, and it's done in a way that is very sort of measured, so it doesn't become tedious and silly. Like the first time you fall down, your character sort of lands splat on his face, and you move joystick to stand up kind of thing, and the narrator goes, the kid stands up and brushes himself off. And I'm like, oh, he's not going to say that every time I fall down. and he doesn't. So it's all very sort of measured and reasonable. Like there isn't a lot of like repetition and silliness to it. It really sort of unfolds in a way that is kind of elegant. And like I said, yeah, the writing is really, really well done. So all of that just serves to make me want to go play it again right now.
I think I'll go and hit pause and go buy it right now then.
Yes, this is. I'm not done by any means. I have no idea where it sort of goes, but just based on the few hours that I've put into it, I think this is definitely something that, if you respect, creativity, originality in games, give Bastion a shot.